Well, good evening, and just wanted to break into this announcement and let you know that we'll be going live here in just a few moments. We are 3 minutes into a 3.5 minute video, so we'll see you live real soon. Well, good evening. Welcome to PJNet Live, and it is good to have everybody checking in. Wanted to bring you an update on the status of the PJNet app. At moment, it is still suspended, but I have some great news. But before I get to that, I want to take note that we have a guest in our chat room. You see him in the roster. His name is Aaron Mack. Now, Aaron Mack called me this afternoon. I was driving actually, and couldn't speak long. But he has consequently emailed me, and I'll tell you more about that. But Aaron Mack works for Slate.com. Now, you may not have heard of Slate.com. Because Slate.com is to the progressive left what Breitbart.com is to the right. And we want to welcome you, Aaron. We are glad that you're here, and you will be treated with the utmost respect. And I thank you for reaching out. Folks, we have had other media from the other side of the aisle write articles on PJNet and myself personally without having contacted me whatsoever. So I am thankful that Aaron has acted professionally and called me, and he is attempting to be a professional. And I hope that he prints an article, and I trust that he will be fair. And while they may not agree with our politics, I hope that they will agree that we're all Americans and we all can use Twitter to have our conversation. Okay, good to have you, Aaron. Thanks for joining us. Okay, I was going to actually formulate an appeal no later than this morning, but I have been reading and rereading the Twitter rules and could not, for the life of me, figure out what our transgression is, or was, or is, I guess, And of course, in my previous two emails with Twitter, I have pledged to them our full cooperation, and that our goal is to be a good Twitter citizen and to be in full compliance, even with the rules that we may not agree with. Okay? I got an email late this evening, and in that email, it referred. Now, they don't get real specific, but well, let me, I can't post the screen here, but I'll be sharing this again at some later point. But let me, for the sake of accuracy, be very, very careful to not misquote what Twitter said in their email to me. And here we have it. It says, thanks for reaching out. They always start out with that. That's always the first sentence. Your app was restricted for posting duplicate content over multiple accounts. This is prohibited by the Twitter rules. And it says spam. You may not use the Twitter service for the purpose of spamming anyone. What constitutes spamming will evolve as we respond to new tricks and tactics by spammers. Some of the factors that we take into account when determining what conduct is considered to be spamming are, and there's a single bullet point, I want you to pay careful attention. If you post duplicate content over multiple accounts. It's all one sentence, but let's start there. In other words, if you've got 5 Twitter accounts and you just copy and paste the same tweet on all those accounts, well, that's a violation of the Twitter rules. Okay, we'll come back and revisit that subject because that one's a little squishier from a developer's point of view, from an app developer's point of view. Okay, let's look at the second half of that sentence. Or multiple duplicate updates on one account. Now, that's a little bit more clear. Now, you may not like what I'm about to say, but folks, I've said before, we are going to comply and play within the rules. Twitter decides the rules. We don't. We are a guest. at their dinner table, and we are going to act appropriately. Okay? All right, so let's drill down on that. What that means when it says multiple duplicate updates on one account. Well, now this is as far as the app is concerned, but let's take that to its strictest definition, the most strict interpretation of what they just said. If you ever send out a tweet, you should not send that same tweet out again, ever. Ever. That falls under the umbrella of what they consider spamming. Okay? All right. I can't help what any Twitter user does. I'm an app developer. I develop an app, and I basically take requests from users to dispatch this content at some future time. That's basically what we do. So, as you know, if you use let's just say the featured tweet scheduler, and you schedule all 100 tweets, okay, and you do them at a 6-minute interval, that would last 10 hours. And let's say that 2 hours later you come back and try to reschedule the same thing. It's going to say, I'm going to say, the program will respond and say, you haven't finished up the ones you've already scheduled. You can't come back for seconds until you've cleaned your plate. Okay. Well, here's the deal, folks. Basically, a featured tweet, as far as the application dispatching it for you, we're going to have to retool the application so that once you schedule it once, you can't use either the tweet scheduler or the retweet scheduler to schedule it again ever. Ever. Okay? Now, this is going to be quite a pain in our backside, hind parts, but we are going to do what is necessary, and I want to send a shout out to Sunbelt Girl. I'm also glad to see Dan here, because Dan is the curator for another Twitter project, the COS project, and this will impact him as well. So I hope you're paying attention, Dan. We will be talking later privately and reviewing this material. But what this means for the curator of the featured tweets is, once we have them up there, once you've scheduled them, you're not going to schedule them again ever. Ain't going to happen. I'm not going to let you. Okay? Now, that being said, I have no control over you pressing a tweet button. And if you do press a tweet button, you are not using the PJNet app to dispatch that. You're using your Twitter account. I don't have any control over that. I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm asking you, to all of us, please, even if you don't think it's reasonable, comply with the rules. Or, you're risking your account being suspended. If your account is suspended, you can't possibly be on the field of play waging the battle that we are in. Okay? So please don't get personal fouls. You can't help the team when you do that. So I'm informing you of this so that you will know. And that's based on the strictest interpretation of the rules. Now, I think by doing that, that will totally satisfy Twitter that we are the good guys. We're not out to game the system. We're not trying to circumvent the rules. Okay? We want to know the rules so that we can abide by them. We need clarification. So that should take care of the second part. We are also the anatomy of a featured tweet is going to change, because in reading the totality of the Twitter rules for developers. Now, by the way, we all have the Twitter rules for users, all of us. But developers, this guy right here, has an additional set of rules for developers, for app developers. And in reading the totality of this, I kid you not, if you took the strict interpretation of the Twitter rules, if you mention another Twitter account in a tweet, you must first have the permission of that account that you mentioned before you do it. I don't know how that would happen. People are mentioned on Twitter tens of thousands of times per hour. I can't imagine how but if you took the strict interpretation, that's what it says. Okay, got that? Now, it also goes on to say, and if you do have that permission, you must provide a clearly understood way for that person to opt out of the campaign. Well, I don't know how you would do that either, especially in 140 characters, but nonetheless, here's what we're going to do. We're going to drop we're going to change the anatomy of a featured tweet. The featured tweet is actually going to become what is known in Twitter as a quoted tweet. Now, to get an illustration of what a quoted tweet is, if you hit the retweet button on any particular tweet on Twitter, you can see a little dialog box, leave a comment or leave a reply. And we are studying that, that anatomy, that format, as a way of doing our featured tweets in the future, so that we're not mentioning them, we're actually rebroadcasting, we're retweeting them in a way, okay? And I think this is actually going to be a good thing, okay? So we're happy about that. Now, you noticed a moment ago I was playing all three of our tutorial videos on our retweet scheduler and our tweet scheduler, and I've described the upcoming changes. You'll be able to use it. Basically, it's a one and done. Once you have used the scheduler to schedule a featured tweet or to schedule a retweet, you will not be doing that tweet again by using our scheduler. Okay, because I'm going to stop it before I'll fix all that up for you. Okay, we're going to be in compliance. Now, the drip engine. Not many of you use the drip engine, but the people that use the drip engine use it quite a bit, and we're just basically going to drop it because the usefulness of the drip engine was in the fact that it automatically repeats the tweet until you go delete it, and from the drip engine. And Twitter has basically said, no, well, okay, let me say it this way. My opinion, okay, I only do what you tell me. In other words, you did it, I didn't. You, at the end of the day, are responsible for what gets tweeted on your account, whether you do it interactively by pressing a tweet button and typing it, or whether you use an application to do that for you. You ultimately are responsible. So I could take exception in some way to that particular interpretation, that it's in and of itself forbidden. But let me say this on Twitter's behalf. Well, and I've said before, we're just going to comply. Doesn't matter what I think about it. But if you think of it this way, if it is true, which it seems to be, that tweeting duplicate tweets in and by itself is an infraction, we have a tool here that could not be used without creating an infraction, right? If you use the drip engine, it's going to reschedule. So even though I say ultimate responsibility is with the user that scheduled it, it's very difficult for me to say that PJNet is not somehow complicit in that crime. So now that I'm pretty sure that's their beef, okay? So we're just going to drop it. It's just going to drop. It just won't be there anymore. No big deal. Meanwhile, we hope that when we make that appeal, that they will see our good intentions and our desire to be good citizens, and they'll reinstate the app, because by yanking the cord, by pulling the plug on the app, we've also lost our hashtag tracking. We've also lost the ability to nominate a tweet. We've lost our ability, all those public utilities that are available to the public to do searches that are more robust, to find out the forensic and reputational details on who retweeted a specific tweet. I don't know if y'all have ever been to our public tools, okay, but in the hands of a pretty savvy user, there's nothing like it. It's good stuff. Well, it doesn't work because the app can't work, okay? All that is made possible by the PJNet app. So it's unfortunate that they pulled the plug on the entire app and all of those good things that are in compliance and are of service to all Twitter users, regardless of their political ideology. So we just need to get the app reinstated. Okay, so that's the update. Now, how long is all of this going to take? Well, for longer than I want, I'll tell you that. And longer than you want, I'll tell you that. Also, don't look, if we're able to get the app reinstated, which I'm pretty confident that we can, don't look for 100 featured tweets. Okay, we're probably going to have a few to start with because we're going to have to constantly replace them weekly. There's going to have to be 100% turnover in featured tweet content. So Barbara's going to be very busy. And again, hat tip to Sunbelt Girl. She is the curator of the featured tweets that you see here in this venue. Also, tip of the hat to Dan. He does the same thing for the COS project over there at patriotjournalist.com/COS project. So this will be impacting us. And so we're going to be a little lean when we start, but we are going to be calling upon more of you, more volunteer opportunities for you to contribute content to that, to make to kind of spread the labor burden around, because we're looking at a much larger labor burden. But most of that's done by volunteers. And Barbara and Dan, by the way, aren't the only ones. There are others that work hard and tirelessly and don't get a lot of credit. They certainly deserve more credit than they get, but they're not doing it for that reason. They're doing it because they have a passion for what we're trying to accomplish here at PJNet, to make your Twitter experience more effective and to work as a team. Okay, not tweet into thin air, but be part of a team of tweeters that together we make music, not noise. Okay, there's a difference. On another topic, I'll be very brief here. There's going to be a new host coming up shortly. Many of you know Chuck Nellis. Chuck Nellis will be doing his own live show. Don't know how frequently, but he will be setting up. I have to tool up that in my spare time on top of all this. So let me go back and revisit how soon is this going to happen. I do not want to file my appeal with Twitter. In fact, they have instructions. Please don't contact us. And they have 4 little bullet points that you have to include. And one of those 4 bullet points is the measures you've taken to bring it into compliance. So I can't say we intend to do this and we're working on that and we hope to do, no, I have to actually get it done. Now, oddly enough, it's hard to do when the app doesn't work. So it'll be harder. So it's going to take me probably a couple of days to retool the code. First, we've got to come up with a strategy, and I've shared most of it with you, but we're not completely done making all those decisions. But once all those decisions have been made, then I have to implement that strategy in the code of the program, and that could take probably another 24 to 48 hours. So, folks, give me a pass. It's going to take us all week. Now, we may finish up sooner than that, but I mean, realistically speaking, we're looking at being back alive sometime next week, presuming that Twitter acts on the appeal quickly and favorably. Okay. If you have any questions, we can just chat about it. But for now, let's just have a little party and celebrate and relax and have a good time, and know that regardless of what happens, we are going to do the best we can with what we have, and what we have is each other, and folks, that's enough. So let's have some fun. I'll turn the helm back over to Sunbelt Girl, and we will have a little bit more party music. And if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. I'll try to answer them as best I can. We'll see you a little bit downstream.